Hello, welcome to my channel, Brookie Cookie Creatures. I run a mousery, I breed fancy mice, and in the process of breeding fancy mice, I have come to learn a lot of fancy skills, including the one that I want to show you guys or give a little bit of a tutorial, kinda. It's not going to be super great, but I thought I'd at least explain the process of building bin cages. It's pretty easy. I'm currently building 10 plus cages for quarantine. I recently had exposure to my colony of a virus called MHV. Thankfully, it's not a super serious virus, but it's a very annoying one. And in order to eliminate it or make sure that your colony doesn't get reinfected all the time, you need to do something called a burnout. In order to do a burnout, you need to have quarantine, you need to be able to sanitize your cages, and my normal cages, which you can see in my mousery, are in racks that have wooden frames, and you can't exactly soak wood in bleach for 15 minutes. So, that means I gotta build a bunch of bin cages. And since I'm building them, I thought I would explain the process so that others who might need to build a quarantine cage or otherwise need to build something, even for pet mice, you guys would have a little bit more knowledge or understanding of how to do that. So let's get started. All right. So I'm not actually going to show you much of the process because it's kind of hard to Dremel and record and do this. I could get like a stand of some sort, but I don't know. I don't know if I've got enough energy. It's like 3 a.m. right now. I just decided I'd video this for the sake of people who might be curious, but basically when you're building a bin cage for mice, you just want a clear clasping bin. So this is a Hefty Harrows bin. They sell them at Walmart, Home Depot, various other stores. These cages are good for quarantine. You can hold like 2 to 3 females in here for a short amount of time. A male can live in here. Usually if they're a pet, you want a larger cage. But for breeding, this is a good size for males or a male-female pairing or a mother with a litter, just a single mother. If you have more than one litter in a cage, you probably want to go bigger. But 18 quart is the enclosures that I'm building today because these are for the males in quarantine. So I've got this clasping bin. It's secure on the sides and pushing up like this, you can see the mice aren't going to be able to get out of it. So that's the most important thing to consider with your bin. The other thing that you want to make sure of with the bin that you choose is that the sides are clear or smooth. Now, these bins are not perfect. I have actually had mice chew on these before, and I have a technique that makes it so that they can't chew on this as easily, which includes, let me grab it. It includes attaching this, which is galvanized pipe hanger from the plumbing section at the hardware store. And you take this and you basically just attach it to the walls here, and then you use a Dremel to put holes in there through all the places where the little holes are, and then you can just attach these with zip ties, and that metal guard basically guards the chew points on these cages. But generally speaking, these are smooth enough that most mice aren't going to chew on them. And if they do try, it's going to be pretty hard for them to get to it. So if you have a bin that has there are some that have much more prominent ridges, you definitely don't want to go with those. Because the fact that mice can chew on this even just tells you how smooth it has to be for them to not chew on it. But otherwise, I love these. They're very sturdy, very secure cages. And then when you're building a bin cage for them, most important thing to remember is that mice need a lot of ventilation. Their urine has a lot of ammonia in it, and if they don't have enough ventilation, they will get URIs and other issues. So having a properly ventilated cage will help them stay healthy. One of the biggest problems I see with DIY cages from people who are just getting into mice, from both breeders and pet owners, is that they'll just drill holes in the top of a cage and they'll just assume that's enough, but you need to have a completely clear top. So I cut out the top of this enclosure, this bin, with my Dremel. And this here, so you can see the model, Dremel 3000. It wasn't actually that expensive. This is one of the cheaper power tools you can get. And the cool thing is, it does everything you need to build a bin cage, basically. You do not need a drill or anything else. Just get yourself a Dremel and then the attachments for it. This right here is like the easy switch piece. Let's see, I think the name is on. Oh no, never mind, it's not. I ripped it off. Let's see, I bet it's on one of the other. Yeah, Easy Lock cutting system. So the reason I like that is just because it makes it easy to switch. And I have the plastic heads like this, and then the metal ones, which is what this one is, which is why it's the label's gone, because I used it on the metal and it ripped it off. But so you'll want to have the metal heads and the plastic ones. Plastic will help you cut through this. So you basically just turn it on and then you like line it up. And I usually do like an inch and a half away from the edge to give it like stability and to give myself space to put holes in it. And you can put holes in it using the Dremel with this attachment. Mine's a little bit messy, but it's just got like that little knob on the end. And then it's a long, thin pole. And Dremels work with speed, basically, rather than pressure, so you don't even have to press. You just line it up, gently place it, and then it shoves through, makes you a nice little hole. And you just do that at regular intervals. So basically the pieces you need for a Dremel to make a bin cage are a piece that will get you some holes that are not too big. You don't want the mouse to be able to chew on them super easy. But not too small. You want to be able to have them big enough to get a zip tie through. And then you'll want the metal disc, the disc that is able to shear through metal, and the disc that is able to go through plastic. And that's about it. I do recommend using gloves and putting your hair up if you've got long hair when using a power tool like this, because I did get my hair caught in this once and it sucked. So, yeah, 0 out of 10 experience. But yeah, just wear your gloves, make sure that you're staying safe. Another thing, you might want to wear goggles, because the melted plastic that comes off this, it can hit you in the face, and you wouldn't want that in your eyes. So, another thing to keep in mind. The other thing you're going to need is this stuff, which is wire mesh, and it's 1/4 inch specifically. You don't want to do 1/2 inch because baby mice can get through 1/2 inch, and that sucks. You might be able to get away with having an adult in there, but even some adult mice can get through depending on the line and how big they are. So a 1/4 inch is the way to go, especially if you're breeding. And I usually get the really big fat rolls because I make so many cages, but you can get it at Walmart or Home Depot or other stores. You can even get it at like farm stores like IFA or Tractor Supply. And then you're actually going to use the Dremel to smooth out the edges. Because when you cut it, here, I'll show you on this. When you cut off the pieces that you want to use, oh, and by the way, you don't have to have a Dremel to make a bin cage. You can also use a drill and then like aviation shears, but it's so much harder. But regardless of what you cut with, you're going to be left with these jagged edges, which you can imagine are unsafe for you and for the mice. So you use your Dremel on the metal disc. You put on the metal disc, and after you've cut the correct size of wire mesh out, you're going to take that disc and you're going to smooth out the edges. And you're going to do this. This is what I found is easiest. So you turn the wire mesh. I don't know if you can see this, but it's laid over itself in this pattern, where the stuff that's currently closest to us is on top, stuff that's furthest is on bottom. You can kind of see how they're laid on top of each other if I turn it to the side. So put the wire mesh in a position where the stuff that's facing you is the stuff that's closest to the top. And then you kind of hold the Dremel at this angle, and you can like go along, and that is the thing that'll reduce the amount of sparks that come at your face, and it'll also make it go smooth. And the Dremel works best if you go in this direction. That's kind of specific, but just some little tips to make it easier. I've done this so many times, I've found a lot of just little techniques and stuff that have helped me out. But you can see, like, little stuff like that. Mice probably won't get caught on it, but freak accidents happen. So the more work you do to, like, smooth out your wire mesh before you put it on your cage, the less likely a freak accident is to happen to your little mice. So I've just got done smoothing out the edges of 9 sheets. I'm so tired. Oh my gosh. Also got done putting holes in this. One other thing that you can do, this is kind of optional, is you can use, in here I've got some, but like sanding attachments, you can use that to smooth out the plastic, because the Dremel will heat it up to the point where it kind of flakes and becomes kind of a mess. This has already been cleaned up for the most part. I never do a perfect job. It looks a lot worse before I've done it, and you can see. You might want to do it somewhere outside. I just vacuum everything after I do it, but everything's covered in plastic. The sanding will just help it be smoother and nicer. But yeah. So those are all the initial steps. Hopefully that made sense. And once you've got all of your holes evenly spaced, and you've got your metal cleaned up so that it's not going to be dangerous to your mice, you're going to take yourself some zip ties. You want them to be small enough that they can fit through the holes. Keep in mind that sometimes mice will chew on these, so I'd make a few extra holes in your bin cage than you think you'll need. And always have extra zip ties on hand just in case. Because it's better safe than sorry. But in this part of the process, and this is the last part of the process of making a bin cage, you just take your lid, you're going to flip it upside down. You're not going to attach the metal on this side because that leaves this side unprotected and the mice will chew on this if it's not covered. So by putting the metal on the inside, and this is why cleaning it up is so important, but by putting the metal on the inside, and I recommend, see how it has a natural curve to it? Put the natural curve down like this. There we go. So it's flat like that. That'll help hold it in place. And by putting the metal on this side, you protect the plastic so that they're not able to chew it easily and get out of the cage. Sometimes mice will get excited and they'll try, but they're not really going to get far enough to make any difference. So, yeah, it works pretty great. And I am as you can see, I'm one-handed right now, so this is a little bit of a struggle. But all you do is, I usually attach my corners first. You want to hold it flat. Line it up as much as you can first, because if you put it on crooked, it will suck later. So make it as flat as you can. Figure out which holes line up the best. It's worth thinking about this step when you do it. And you're just going to stick your zip tie through on both sides. Here, 1 second. You're going to have to deal with a less than ideal view for once. Here, I'm just going to put... Can you see what I'm doing if I lean you right here? Ugh, this sucks. Don't mind me. That kind of works. That's a good temporary view. It's better than what you would see otherwise. But yeah, so I'm just gonna... There we go. Make sure that this bad boy's lined up. Okay. Dope. Lovely. Then I'm going to take this end of the zip tie, put it through this hole. I don't know if you can see. I'm not looking at what you guys can see right now. But then I'm just going to take it, attach it, and then I always do this thing where I like go back and forth with it. You'll get the hang of it once you've done it. But then you've got yourself your zip ties. Here, I'll take this again. So just like that, I've attached the zip tie to the bin, just like so. And at this point, what I've actually found is the best thing to cut it with is a pair of cat nail clippers. I don't have any next to me right now. But they work super well. They're just the perfect shape. They make it really easy. But if you don't have cat nail clippers, you can make scissors work. They're just really annoying. Or you can also use one of these bad boys. I have these because they're better for cutting the pipe hanger. And they work for zip ties, and I used to use them to cut the wire mesh before I had a Dremel. So yeah, that's all there is to it. You just do that on all the corners, and then you do it for the rest of the holes around the cage. And after you've done that, it'll be flat, smooth to the surface, and because you did the rough side on the inside, you won't have to worry about running into it. The mice aren't super likely to run into it, and you can take the Dremel and the sanding attachment on the Dremel, and you can smooth down this bump so the mice are less likely to run into it as well. But yeah, that way it's a nice, good surface that provides perfect ventilation for them. One last thing that you'll want to do is make a hole in the top for a water bottle, because this is not tall enough for like those water bottle hangers that you get at the store for tanks. So instead you feed the water bottle through the lid. And this of course is not finished. But normally I just cut a hole like right here-ish with the Dremel. You can use like a thin attachment. What's a good attachment? This one might work. The most important thing is that you don't cut too big of a hole. You could probably also make this one work. I just use whatever. But yeah, you just try to cut just 4 squares. So you'd cut like this stuff and have yourself a little half-inch hole. And then you'd be able to stick your water bottle through. And I'll show you an example real quick of a finished cage that's currently in use. Alright. This one right here is a good example. This one's old. You can see I put the wire mesh on the wrong side and they chewed. So this is why I recommend putting it on the inside. Very old. But I've got that hole there. So, hopefully that was helpful to somebody out there. Good luck with your mouse projects.